What makes hundreds of people sell their homes, leave, and follow a girl who claims to speak for God? Is it a need to feel chosen, a profound mystical experience, or the illusion of control in a chaotic world? This is the story of Maria Åkerblom, the sleep-preaching prophet who built a secretive and fiercely loyal cult in 1920s Finland. A woman worshipped as a prophet, feared as a manipulator, and remembered as both a saint and a mystic criminal.
Kohti hiljaisuutta, sydän koputti kylkiluita.
There was something unusual about Maria, even as a child. Born in 1898 to a poor household, Maria Åkerblom was described as imaginative and eager for attention. Maria was drawn to spirituality. She dreamed of preaching to large crowds and described vivid visions of Judgment Day. Like many children from struggling families, Maria was sent to live with a wealthier foster family, but frequent conflicts with hosts and neighbors forced her to move repeatedly. One contemporary would later describe her as the most deceitful person they had ever met. Maria was also chronically ill from a young age, with recurring high fevers. It was during one of these long periods of illness that something unusual happened, something that would mark the beginning of her rise as a spiritual figure. Maria's first trance sermon reportedly took place when her family believed she was on her deathbed. As loved ones sang a farewell hymn, Maria suddenly began speaking ecstatically about God. She ended each sermon with a time and place for the next. And little by little, more people came to witness the strange young preacher. At some point, her brother, convinced something was wrong, arranged for her to be examined at a psychiatric hospital. After being discharged, Åkerblom moved in with her followers in Helsinki and began actively traveling around the region to preach. News spread quickly. Crowds began to gather. People climbed trees and rooftops just to see her. Soon, Maria was invited to speak in churches and prayer rooms. A bed was placed at the altar, where she would lie covered by a sheet. She would rise, trembling, ecstatic, and begin to preach. Transpreaching, especially by women, had appeared across Europe since the 1600s. It offered spiritual authority to the powerless. Åkerblom used it skillfully. Some believe her altered states reflected a dissociative tendency, a trauma response marked by detachment from reality, leading to trance-like states, emotional numbness, or altered awareness. Eyewitness accounts describe Åkerblom as a magnetic speaker with exceptional ability, possessing an almost unmatched talent for holding a room in her grasp. Maria often appeared before her audience like a vision, youthful, ethereal, almost untouchable. She wore a long white dress that flowed to her ankles. Her long hair hung loose or was decorated with delicate ribbons, framing a face that seemed younger than her years. As she spoke, her hands moved in soft, wave-like motions that seemed to hypnotize the crowd. Even educated skeptics found themselves entranced. Future Regional Dean Eugene Niemann later recalled the moment she turned her attention toward him. It felt like being crushed under some dangerous hypnotic pressure, like a nightmare inside my skull. I've never experienced anything like it since. Also among those captivated by Åkerblom's preaching was forester Eino Vartiovaara, who would become involved in a relationship with her that many considered disturbingly intimate. During one of her trances, Maria claimed to receive a message from above. Vartiovaara, then 35, was to adopt her as his daughter. The unusual adoption caused a stir in Helsinki, and not long after, the household moved to Kokkola. Over time, Vartiovaara emerged as Maria's most devoted supporter, co-leader of her growing religious movement. Vartiovaara had a family, but everything changed when Maria entered his life. He quit his job and devoted himself to her cause. She moved into the family home, even shared a bedroom with the couple, and the marriage fell apart. At some point, her followers blocked Aino's ex-wife from seeing her children. Vartiovaara bought Maria expensive gifts, including an Anglo-Arabian horse. Åkerblom's followers soon built her an enormous 19-room villa that became known among townspeople as Maria's Palace. After the Civil War, Finland was broken, hungry, poor, and deeply divided. To many, Maria Åkerblom looked like a savior, but her growing movement soon drew criticism. Ecstatic night meetings led by a young woman shocked the clergy. Some feared her theology, others her gender. Yet in the beginning, some priests even opened her gatherings, uncertain whether they were witnessing heresy or something holy. Maria's sermons were often prophetic and apocalyptic. She claimed to speak directly for God, warning of judgment and demanding loyalty. When challenged, she used dramatic seizures to silence doubt and promised salvation to the faithful. Many followed. Under her influence, people sold everything, cut ties with family, and even broke the law, believing she was the final prophet before Christ's return. But as Åkerblom's influence grew, so did the opposition.
Take that step. Bless your heart. Take that step.
Many cult leaders share a defining trait, a sense of persecution. It becomes a central part of their narrative, casting them as misunderstood visionaries, chosen yet hunted. Persecution fuels devotion. It binds followers closer to a leader who presents themselves as a martyr for the truth. Åkerblom's legal troubles began with charges of violating church law, which she dodged by collecting 574 signatures in her defense. In the fall of 1922, Maria reportedly fired a gun at a farmer after he threw a stone at her dog, which had startled his horse. No one was injured, but the incident caused public outrage. This drew the attention of a local sheriff Venelius, unknowingly becoming a major player in what was to come. Soon, Åkerblom declared the city of Kokkola doomed and promised to lead her flock to Jerusalem. Instead, they moved to Helsinki in 1923. There, she used funds from her followers' sold farms to buy property. At its peak, the movement had around 800 followers. About 200 of them sold everything they owned to move south. Whatever Maria commanded, they obeyed, because in their eyes, it was the voice of God. Maria kept a low profile in Helsinki for a while. But soon, trouble found her again. She was caught stealing fine fabric from a shop. The investigation that followed revealed a string of thefts. She and her followers had been stealing luxury goods, gold watches, fine silk, lace. During the investigation, multiple witnesses claimed Maria had been home, but the pattern raised suspicion. 13 were later charged with lying under oath. Even while in custody, Maria stayed in contact with her followers, passing secret notes that contained detailed instructions. Convinced that Sheriff Venelius was persecuting her movement, Åkerblom made a decision. He had to be eliminated. Her followers tried 3 times. Maria claimed she had received a message from God. Among her followers were individuals chosen to reach what she called the 7th level. To reach this level, one had to eliminate anything or anyone standing in the movement's way. The first attempt to murder Sheriff Venelius involved hiring someone to poison him. The would-be killer took the money and vanished. Then, 4 of Åkerblom's followers traveled to Kokkola with a mission. They placed a bomb beneath the sheriff's boat, but the gunpowder got wet, and the device failed to detonate. So they tried again, this time with far more serious consequences. A few weeks later, as the sheriff and his relatives returned by boat from their summer cottage, 6 shots were fired at them on the lake. 4 hit Venelius. 2 struck his sister. Miraculously, they survived, though the sheriff was gravely wounded. The attackers were soon tracked down. During the trial, their courtroom demeanor was arrogant, even though an angry mob had earlier threatened to lynch them upon their arrival. All 4 men were sentenced, but behind it all, suspicion continued to circle the same name, Maria Åkerblom. Though Åkerblom was sentenced to prison for shoplifting, the court overturned the ruling. She was released, only to be immediately detained again and transported to Vasa, pending a new trial for attempted murder and lying under oath. While being transferred by train, Åkerblom requested a bathroom break. When she didn't return, guards broke down the door, only to find the window open and Maria gone. She had jumped from a moving train into the snow. Maria was soon discovered in a nearby forest, cold and hiding. After her arrest, Maria requested a bathtub and a privacy curtain in her cell. She had a remarkable ability to influence people, and the request was granted. The next morning, you guessed it, her cell was empty. A hole had been sawed in the floor beneath the bathtub, through which Maria, along with another leader of the movement, Alfred Huta, had escaped. Following Maria's escape, Helsinki police stormed Villa Toivola in a large-scale raid. What they found inside shocked them. The mansion contained hidden rooms and secret passageways. One of them was used by Alfred Huta to slip away during the chaos. Maria Åkerblom was eventually handed an 8-year prison sentence for attempted murder and persuading others to lie under oath. Eino Vartiovaara was also sentenced, along with 4 other members of the movement. Maria became notorious for her repeated prison escapes, each more unbelievable than the last. Her dramatic run-ins with law enforcement made headlines. A police raid on Villa Toivola in summer 1927 dominated the front pages, and soon mocking songs and broadsides about her were circulating among the public. Even a car company ran a newspaper ad bragging that it was their vehicle Åkerblom used during one of her escapes. Maria became a kind of dark folk heroine, a mystic outlaw, a holy criminal. After completing her sentence, Åkerblom lived quietly with her remaining followers at Villa Toivola. But years later, she resurfaced in the public eye. She had rebranded herself as a prominent businesswoman. With her followers, Maria ran a dog kennel and a parquet flooring company that, believe it or not, even renovated floors in the presidential palace. Maria Åkerblom lived in luxury. In her villa, she kept dogs, servants, and, For a time, 2 lion cubs from the Helsinki Zoo. Yes, real lions. In her time, Maria Åkerblom was a superstar, even outside Finland. One Swedish newspaper described her as the most hated and most beloved person in all of Scandinavia. She lived among Helsinki's social elite. She became known as something of a criminal noblewoman, a banded baroness of her age. Maria claimed to be a wealthy heiress. She threw lavish parties at the villa. A choir made up of the children living in the house entertained the guests. At its peak, over 30 children lived in the house. Inside the villa, Åkerblom ruled like a queen. Some compared her to a mother, others to a tyrant. Åkerblom was alleged to have used violence within her movement. Testimonies have described brutal beatings and mistreatment, even toward children. As she aged, Maria began to drink. Her empire dwindled, but the community didn't fully dissolve until the 1970s. Maria died in 1981. After Maria's death, her followers rarely spoke of their past, and never publicly. In anonymous accounts, they said things like, "No outsider could ever understand the power she held over us." A decade after Åkerblom's death, her former secretary Ulla Lindqvist published a memoir in 1991. In it, she claimed some followers believed Åkerblom would rise from the dead and accused the cult of continuing abusive practices long after the 1920s. Lindqvist also alleged that Åkerblom once tried to poison her and later sent people to try to kidnap her child after she fled to Sweden. Who was Maria Åkerblom, really? I think it's likely that behind the trances and trials was a person shaped by poverty, instability, and childhood emotional neglect. Some psychologists believe that charismatic cult leaders sometimes emerge from trauma. Pain that fractures identity and fuels a hunger for control, meaning, and devotion. Maybe trance-preaching became Maria's way of surviving, a way to be seen. Whether she believed in her own message is unclear. Maybe she did, or maybe not. Perhaps what she wanted most was devotion, control, a family that stayed, and meaning no one challenged. Åkerblom was never just one thing. She was a hypnotic visionary, a manipulator, a mystery, and maybe that's why we still can't look away.